Do you believe that you can heal yourself? Too often we give our power away to something outside of ourselves, and rarely, if ever, trust and tap into our innate healing power and intuition. Everyone has this capability to heal in ways we never thought possible. It's your sovereign right to claim and have true health and lasting wellness. Now, here is the host of the Dr. Dolores Show, Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in our amazing universe. And welcome to another episode of the Dr. Dolores Show on Inspired Choices Network. And I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And I'm very excited today to share with you, let's talk about like miraculous stuff. A lot of times in our lives, we have those amazing experiences that we label as miracles. It's like when everything lines up and you just can't make this stuff up. And so today we're going to have a guest. His name is Dr. Andrew Hahn. He's a PsyD, and he has written a book and has a methodology called the 1 Minute Miracle. And I'm so excited to have Dr. Hahn here today because I feel like we're in a really timely presence in humanity's evolution where it's so necessary to start really believing in possibilities because we've been so inundated with everything but and a lot of chaos and drama. And so, without further ado, I'm just going to introduce my lovely guest. And Dr. Hahn, could you just tell us more about yourself and your background and everything that kind of transpired to get you to where you are in this moment?
Sure, Dolores. Thank you so much. To get me to this moment, it's a long story, but the short story is I have a doctorate in clinical psychology. I was always kind of edgy. And about 4 years after I got my doctorate, even though I'd had a number of experiences, I had a life-changing experience, which is that I was with a friend, and the day before I visited her, she fell and hurt her ankle very badly, but she wanted to bring me, some of your guests may know this, she wanted to bring me to the Self-Realization Fellowship in Encinitas, California, beautiful, holy place. And we did a heart chanting service. And then she wanted to walk me around the holy grounds. And we got to these two benches and she said, I'm in so much excruciating pain that you're going to have to carry me out of her. So I helped her to get over to one of the benches and I sat in a very strange place, which was I had to sort of go all the way around and through the benches so I could sit on the other side so that she could elevate her ankle. And the second I sat down, I was flooded with, I guess I could say, light. I knew it wasn't the sun because I knew where the sun was off to my left. This was directly above my head. And I could just feel the light sort of entering me. And I just said to my friend, whose name is Roshan, I just said, I'm going to just do something. And I just started, I didn't touch her, but I just started channeling the light through my hands to her ankle. At which point, before anything else happened, she said, I can read auras, don't you? And I said, Roshan, I'm a nice Jewish boy from Boston. What do I know from auras? And she said, are you aware that there's pure light coming through the crown of your head and into the center of your chest and out your hands to my ankle? And are you aware that you sat in this very strange place? It's called the seat of the healer. Very few people sit there. And she's telling me all of this. And that took about 10 seconds. And we looked down and there was no swelling. There was no discoloration. She got up and she walked with no pain. And I said to myself, we're not in Kansas anymore. And I then spent the next 2 years studying everything I could to try to understand what that was. And it took me all over the world, literally all over the world. And I already had a doctorate in clinical psychology, but I started studying Eastern mysteries and energy medicine and healing through touch and mystery trainings and all kinds of different things. And then when that period was over, I didn't know it was over. I had a friend, this was about 2 years later, and she said, there's this woman doing miracles in New Jersey. Now I'm open to miracles in New Jersey because I was open to miracles in Encinitas. What the heck? And she told me a story. She said this woman whose name was Judith was doing a session with someone. She was running a workshop. This is 1993. She was running a workshop And someone came with such a bad case of asthma, my acquaintance said she had a hard time walking up the stairs. She's wheezing so badly. So Judith does this thing called kinesiology or muscle testing, which 30 years ago I hadn't heard of. It's now 31 years ago. And the muscle testing suggested this woman was supposed to tell a story while she tapped all over her body, which, you know, the stuff of meridian therapy was just coming into vogue 30 years ago. And she was one of Roger Callahan's original students. And so she's having her tap while she tells the story. And then the muscle testing says, in Judith's words, that the asthma is cleared. So Judith says to the woman, I'm told, why don't you go outside and start to walk and see if you feel different? So the woman goes outside and she starts to walk, and then she starts to run up and down the street, and she comes back and she's exhausted and exhilarated. And she said, I haven't been able to run a step in 7 years.
Wow.
So I thought that was interesting. So Judith actually did not live in New Jersey. She lived about 10 miles from me in Massachusetts. And we hooked up and we developed what she now calls one thing and I call another thing. And that was about 31 years ago. And we see truly, if you think about miracles as becoming freer every moment, then truly every hour we do see a miracle. And sometimes the miracles are truly things that you would hear about in the Bible. I mean, sort of like the asthma going away, except I've seen things that have been much more, you've got to be kidding me, pigs fly to the moon. Because I never would have believed I saw them. But I mean, I've experienced them and I've witnessed them. So I know for me, I don't believe them. I know it's true. But your audience doesn't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that amazing story. And I always love hearing people's background because, I personally had something, very similar happen too with witnessing the miraculous healing of my father's illness when I was a teenager, and that was a pivotal point for me going into the work that I do. So I really feel you, and thank you so much for listening and being curious enough to be led into your life's work, which is totally amazing. So what is interesting, first of all, I wanted to digress just a little bit. I live in Encinitas, so I know exactly where you're talking about the Self-Realization Fellowship and the Meditation Gardens. I believe that it's one of the crown jewels of Southern California, and it's just beautiful and it's very magical. I do agree with you. And there's something about that energy that's there that is so pure and so connected, and I'm going to say healing and therapeutic at the same time. So way cool. So tell us, you've been doing this work for a long time, like 30 years, and I'm sure you've witnessed huge miracles and stuff like that. Could you just elaborate a little bit more of what you've witnessed and and what you've been able to um, gain wisdom wise from these experiences?
Sure. What I've gained wisdom wise is very simple. There's a part of us that just knows what's true. And you could call that anything you like. I don't care what you call it, but some people just say it's our deepest, deepest knowing, and it knows everything, and it can bear witness, and it just accepts and loves. So that's the first thing I know. Second thing I know is there's only one reason people suffer, as far as I can tell. And it doesn't matter what the symptom is. The symptom could be physical, like chronic pain or chronic fatigue or asthma or allergies or autoimmune disease. It could be mental, like any kind of anxiety. It could be emotional, like depression. It could be the same bad relationship over and over and over again. It could be alienation. It could be something societal, like bullying. I think there's only one reason all those things happen, which is that something can't be taken in stride and handled. So I think that's my definition of trauma. It's totally subjective. If you can take it in stride and handle it, it doesn't matter what it is, you are not traumatized. And if you can't, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, you're traumatized. So that's why I think people suffer, because when they suffer, when they can't handle something, they suffer for reasons that we can talk about in a second. So what is healing? It's just mastering what couldn't be handled. That's all it is, from my point of view. And it's pretty simple to say how you can do that. which is that whenever there's something that you can't take in stride, in that moment, a discomfort is born. The reason the discomfort is born is who you are is energy, but when you can't take something in stride, energy slows down and becomes matter, and you can feel it like pain or queasiness or numbness or pressure or emptiness. You'll feel a discomfort in the moment something can't be handled, because really what happens is you stop being who you fundamentally are and you start becoming something that is dense, a noun, like sick to stomach as opposed to a flow. So what I'd say is, unconsciously, we identify with that discomfort and we act out echoes of its story over and over and over again until we master it, which there's a word for it's in our field, which I will not use the swear about it, but we could say it sucks, because living out echoes of what couldn't be handled is something that you will not like. But on the other hand, the beauty of the thing that you don't like is it's the best clue to the thing that couldn't be handled in the first place, except of course you don't know that necessarily. You just think it's terrible. So what I'd say is, if you could choose to become the discomfort in the same way that an actor would choose to become a role, you would no longer unconsciously identify with the discomfort. You would identify with the one who's choosing to be it, and then saying, I'm here with you, and I accept you, and I love you, and I'm not you. You're just a lens through which I've been experiencing life. And the second that happens, you let it share whatever it wants to share about its story or what it believes, then you will literally remember something that had been split off and dismembered and had a life of its own. So let me give you a simple example that we all understand, and then we can go from there any way you like.
Okay.
You're in my office, okay? A motorcycle backfires, you have a panic attack. Not likely because the motorcycle backfired, right? All right, so I'm going to say, all right, you're having your panic attack, and I'm going to say, okay, Dolores, when you're having the panic attack, what do you feel in the body? And you say, my heart's pounding fast. And then I say something funny to you. I'd say, Dolores, you're not having a panic attack. Someone whose name is heart pounding fast is having a panic attack. It can't be you. Your little toe is just fine. But you think it's you, but it isn't you. It's heart pounding fast. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose to become heart pounding fast. You're going to just choose to. And then you're going to share whatever comes to you. And the second you do that, you will now be remembering what happened as opposed to living it out. So let's suppose you're kinesthetic. You say, oh my God, bombs are going off. I'm going to be killed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because you're a soldier in Afghanistan 20 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I say, okay, you've now, heart pounding fast has just shared its story while we've held it and borne witness and say, I accept you and I love you, but I'm not you. You're just something being experienced. And then something remarkable happens, which is heart pounding fast goes away. It goes back into its pure form, which is a flow. And you'll say, what happened to my heart pounding fast? And I'll say, it's now been remembered back into who you are, but it's no longer been split off. And the next time that motorcycle backfires, you'll say, I remember what happened in Afghanistan, but it isn't who I am. And you won't have the panic attack if that was the only reason you're having panic attack. At which point you could get rid of your panic attack under those circumstances in 20 minutes, even if you've been trying to work on it forever. And that's basically what we do.
And thank you so much for that, because I think what you shared is so true. And I know in the work that I do, there's something very similar. There's a similar thread. It's like whatever happens to us, it's like the body remembers something, but it's like I want to say the pseudo memory. It's not our reality, but it's like we're lost in another time and place, and it keeps looping. So it's like, yeah, it's very interesting. Well, Andy, we're going to get ready to go on our first break. So I'm just going to remind the audience that we're listening to the Dr. Dolores Show. I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, and I have my special guest today, Dr. Andrew Hahn. And we're talking about miraculous healings and the 1 minute miracle. And when we return, we're going to dive in a little deeper and maybe even have a little experience, because I got something coming up myself, and maybe we could, use me as the experimental project for our show. So stay tuned, everybody, and we'll see you on the other side.
Do you trust your instincts? Many of us don't. Yet this is the key to connecting to your innate healer within and your intuition. Tune in to the Dr. Dolores Show with nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer, Dr. Dolores Fazzino, to receive insights and tools to realign with your inner wisdom for lasting health and true wellness. Listen for the Dr. Dolores Show, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Ready to break free from complacency? Welcome to I'm Awake, Now What? Your monthly invitation to embrace conscious living. If you've been feeling lost or stagnant, this is your chance to awaken your purpose. Join our transformative conscious wake-up office hours every month for guidance and self-discovery. Experience the power of clarity and focus as you navigate towards holistic healing and empowerment. Don't just survive, thrive. Sign up now and unlock a wealth of benefits, including enhanced well-being, stress reduction, emotional healing, and connection. It's time to ignite the flames of purpose within and start your journey to a fulfilling life.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Dr. Dolores Show with Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to Dolores at drdoloresfazzino.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Dr. Dolores Show on Inspired Choices Network, and I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And I'm very excited today to have a guest, Dr. Andrew Hahn, and he is the author of The 1 Hour Miracle. And before break, we were talking about a little bit about Dr. Hahn's journey to get to where he is right now and what his work has been for the last 30 years. And, coming back, Andy, it's amazing that you're able to put all this stuff together and to, I'm going to say, figure it out, for lack of a better description, but to be able to integrate this and help so many people. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing and your methodology. So tell us, before break, we were talking about miracles and how they happen, and you shared some stories. Is there something else you'd like to share with that in mind as well?
Yeah, there is. I would say there are three things as a practitioner that are required. The most important thing is that you have an open heart and an open mind. But then you have to find out what the real problem is, as opposed to sometimes, I'll give you an example of this in a second. Sometimes the thing the person comes in with is a symptom of something deeper, and sometimes it's sort of like you can directly work on it. And I'll go back to our nice veteran who had the bomb go off. So you have to find out what the real problem is. You have to find out, if you can, where it originates, because everything after it is an echo. So like, it's harder if I work on, his reactions to motorcycles backfiring than if I can find out that 20 years ago he was in Afghanistan and a bomb went off, because that's where you have the most leverage. And you have to find out if whoever it is that was traumatized, whatever that being was, do they need something other than just sharing their story? Do they need some kind of practice, whether it's something energetic like emotional freedom technique or EMDR, or some kind of spiritual practice, or anything? So there's three things that sort of people need in my experience, and I'll tell you why it's important. And then you can go wherever you like. Let's suppose I have the same guy who comes in and the motorcycle backfires and he has a panic attack. But this time I find out that that's not the problem. It's a symptom of a deeper problem. And I can sort of use a way of determining, which I use the body as a way of determining what the truth is. I ask it to be a means of communication for soul, which is, I think, what kinesiology or muscle testing is. And we find out that the real problem, of which this is a symptom, is betrayal. That somehow, and he was the betrayer. So somehow or other, his reactions to loud sounds is one symptom of a story that had to do with betrayal. We don't know what it is yet, we just have a clue. We also find out where it originated, and I find out it didn't originate in his lifetime, even though he had this experience in Afghanistan. It originated in what we might call, if we believe in them, which I do, past lives. And it could be, of course, his bloodline, at which point it would be one of his blood ancestors, or if you believe in reincarnation, he could be anybody or anything, any place. If you don't believe in past lives, it does not matter. We'll just say it's an imaginal story, or like a mythological story, or like an undreamed dream, or anything you like, because your beliefs are none of my business. We find out, let's say you're okay with past lives, which my guess is a lot of your audience is, and we find that out, and that's the only clue that this person needs. All right. So this time I'm going to say, instead of just focusing on what happens in the body when you focus on reactions to loud sounds and the panic attack, I'm going to have you focus on, I betrayed some kind of trust. And let's suppose when I have this person, the same person, focus on that, and instead of just saying his heart's pounding fast, he says my heart's pounding fast a little, but mainly what's happening is I have excruciating pain in my right foot and my throat's closing up. So we know that someone is here whose name is excruciating pain in right foot and throat closing up. That's their name. We don't know what their name is other than that. So of course, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, we now have a clue, which is you're not going to tell a story where you're the main character. That's all we know. It's going to take place in the past. That's what we just found out through our determining. And we know in this story who your name is until you tell us otherwise is excruciating pain in right foot and throat closing up. And we know it's going to be, we already found out it's going to be a story about betrayal. Okay. So I have you drop in and you become excruciating pain in right foot and you become throat closing up. And then you say, this is really weird. I'm a leader of soldiers and I can tell it's World War I and we're somewhere in Europe and I'm walking them through, I'm leading my men and I suddenly get distracted by something. And when I get distracted, I start to wonder what I'm getting distracted by. And my men keep walking forward. They don't stop. And they walk into a clearing and suddenly they're being ambushed. And grenades are going off and bombs are coming from the sky and gosh knows what. And I'm watching this happen. And I try to scream at them to stop, but I can't get anything out of my mouth. And I watch them as they are wounded and they get killed. And I do not want to be seen as a bad leader. So I take out my pistol and I want them to think that I get wounded by the grenades and something. So I shoot myself in the foot, hoping that they're going to think that I was, with them and I just, something bad happened to me. Okay. That's your story. So now let's think about this for a second. What is that person likely to come in with? Well, he's still going to have his panic attacks. He's going to have ADHD, right? And he's going to say, you know what, I'm distractible. And I feel this guilt. And people say, why do you feel guilty when you have ADHD? But I don't know why. But, they tried to do cognitive behavioral therapy with me. It's not working because, of course, nobody thought it took place somewhere in Germany in 1917. Of course,
in another time and place, right? Yes.
Another time and place. He also will have OCD, and here's how he'll describe his OCD. If I make a mistake, the sky will fall. Because literally, it's a narrative where the sky fell.
Yeah.
And then he dropped some kind of enormous rock on his foot 7 years ago, and he's still limping. And he says, like, my doctors can't understand why I'm still limping or why I should still have pain in my foot, but I do. And I've been to all these specialists and they can't help me with it. And he says, every time I have an opportunity to be a leader, I shoot myself in the foot. So, and that this literally is a variation of a story that actually came up in my office.
Yeah.
And all the stories are not like this. So we say, all right, so now we know why you have those 5 symptoms. They make total sense.
Yeah.
But you have a problem, which is you believe you betrayed those men. So you're going to find their souls and you're going to like say, you're going to ask for forgiveness and see what they have to say about you, which he's anticipating they're going to say the worst things in the world, like what a bad leader he was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Except he finds their souls, however you want to understand that. And they're laughing and they say, we forgave you 100 years ago because we had to learn not to just go off like lemmings just because you weren't telling us what to do. And the only way we were going to learn it was to have that experience. So like, there's nothing, we weren't happy with you that you weren't leading us, but like we had to learn a lesson, which was like not to just follow along like without thinking. At which point he gives out a big sigh of relief. Now I'm going to tell you what happens under those circumstances. If the only reason he has those 5 symptoms is that story, his ADHD goes away, his reactions to loud sounds go away, his OCD goes away, the chronic pain in his foot that no one knows what to do with goes away, and he says, you know what, I think I can be a leader again and not shoot myself in the foot. And I'll tell you something else. He was in Afghanistan and a bomb went off near him. And he says, oh, that's really interesting because I wanted to know what it was like for them. And the only way I could do that was to create a scenario where I would empathically experience what they experienced. So like, I thought it was just an accident, but it wasn't. It was my way of trying to understand empathically what was going on. At which point, the work he tried to do on being, having PTSD from Afghanistan without focusing on Afghanistan just goes away. And all of that literally can happen in an hour. And if things like that happen in an hour, it looks like a miracle, which was why we call the book The 1 Hour Miracle. Which was our agent's idea. And so anyway, sometimes it's miraculous like that, but sometimes one symptom can have like 50 layers to it. And that one symptom will just open you to deeper and deeper things.
Oh my gosh,
So,
and I could so relate to what you're saying because I just like you, I'm a continuous work in progress. I'm always working on myself and evolving and changing. And I recently went through some major stuff myself, and I went into a spontaneous rebirth of me experiencing being born in this lifetime, going through the birth canal. And it was highly traumatizing. And I could see how a lot of my beliefs that I was holding in this lifetime originated from that experience. So I totally resonate with the whole thing about, what we have to understand is everything is happening simultaneously, right here, right now. Past lives, present lives, futures lives, everything in this lifetime is happening right here, right now. So, what's beautiful about this work is that once we're able to dial in and heal what's happening in this moment, we have the capability to heal the past and the future, and also the ancestral stuff, but also the past lifetimes and future lifetimes as well. So that is, the most amazing thing. And I find that right now, where humanity is in their evolution, it's almost like all our stuff is coming to the tip of this precipice, that it's time to clear this, heal this, so we can move on to where we need to go come the future, which is going to be an amazing place. But we cannot go with that energetic baggage that locks us down. So, yes, amen to that. So, thank you, Andy, for sharing that. That's a beautiful analogy and experience that really I feel I resonate with that because I so get all the moving parts happening interdimensionally and all at the same time. So we are getting ready to go to our second break. So um, this is Dr. Dolores Fazzino on Inspired Choices Network, and you're listening to the Dr. Dolores Show. And I'm interviewing Dr. Andrew Hahn, who is the author of The 1 Hour Miracle. And I invite you to come back and stay tuned because there's more that we're going to be sharing. So stay tuned.
Do you trust your instincts? Many of us don't. Yet this is the key to connecting to your innate healer within and your intuition. Tune in to the Dr. Dolores Show with nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer, Dr. Dolores Fazzino, to receive insights and tools to realign with your inner wisdom for lasting health and true wellness. Listen for the Dr. Dolores Show, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Ready to break free from complacency? Welcome to I'm Awake, Now What? Your monthly invitation to embrace conscious living. If you've been feeling lost or stagnant, this is your chance to awaken your purpose. Join our transformative conscious wake-up office hours every month for guidance and self-discovery. Experience the power of clarity and focus as you navigate towards holistic healing and empowerment. Don't just survive, thrive. Sign up now and unlock a wealth of benefits, including enhanced well-being, stress reduction, emotional healing, and connection. It's time to ignite the flames of purpose within and start your journey to a fulfilling life.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Dr. Dolores Show with Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to Dolores at drdoloresfazzino.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We're on the Dr. Dolores Show. I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer, and we're on the Inspired Choices Network. And today I have the pleasure of having a guest, Dr. Andrew Hahn, who is a psychologist, and he is an author of the book, The 1 Hour Miracle. And we've been sharing stories about his experience and how multidimensional this process is. And it's like, I'm going to best describe it as this, Andy, and maybe you could add to it. It's like we might have 3 different things happening on the top of the surface, but as we matrix it down and get down to what's below the surface, sometimes it's just one core issue. Is that true?
Totally true. It's
Yeah.
one core issue that then can play out in all kinds of different ways, symptomatically and in terms of beliefs. And if you find the one core issue, it's amazing. Like in the story I just told you about betrayal, it's one core issue, but look at all the things it affects, the symptoms, panic attacks, ADHD, OCD, chronic pain, and inability to be a leader, and hundreds of beliefs and all kinds of boundary issues and all kinds of, fears of feelings all get tied up into that one trauma around that one theme. So yes, yeah. You're brilliant. I love it.
Well, I call it themes and variations of a core issue, for lack of a better description, because it's like, for me, it's just mind-boggling. On the surface, they don't look like they're related, but when you get down to what's underneath the surface, it is related. It's mind-boggling to me. So, when people are, especially in this day and age of what everybody's going through, what advice can you give them? What, as far as or guidance that you could give them to assist, and maybe a part of it that maybe they never even thought about.
If I was going to give one suggestion, it would be this. Every time you have a discomfort in your body, before you say, I hate you, headache, and I'm going to take a pill and try to get rid of you, just say headache, become headache, choose to become headache from the inside out, and say, at the very least, say, what have you come to share with me? Just do that. And every time something can't be taken in stride, which simply means that you have anxiety about it, or you're judgmental about it, or you compare yourself, or you compulsively say, I need to understand what's going on, anything like that, there will always be a body sensation. Find the body sensation that's associated with whatever you're being reactive to. Choose to become it from the inside out. And just when you become it, like you're talking with it, which is really, you could say you're talking with an aspect of your community, right? You say, you're the expert, sick to stomach. You tell me, what have you come to share? And would you like to tell me your origin story? Would you like to tell me where you're beginning and what's happening? And I will just be here with you. And I will either play you out, or I'll see images, or I'll sort of know it like I'm reading a novel. But I'm going to honor your expertise because you know what's going on. No one just has ever asked. So I'm going to treat you with love and respect and acceptance, and I'll be here with you, which is all we all want anyway. That's like one suggestion if I get one thing.
That's perfect. I love that because, and I think that so many people are afraid of feeling. We've been programmed in our society and also in our world that not to feel. I mean, I know I grew up in a household where my mom's MO was ignore it, it'll go away, don't feel it. And when you have people who are wired as empaths, intuitives, and highly sensitive people, it's just like it's such a 180 counter that it's just like, you know, I just have to laugh now. And I love my parents dearly. They're both transitioned over to the other side. But it was just interesting because, I could see how being in that environment allowed me to grow and appreciate the tools and the gifts that I have currently. But it was interesting because I would tell my mom, it's like when I ignore it and go away, it's growing bigger because that's what it does. you know,
That is exactly what it does.
it does. It
Uh,
keeps growing bigger. Go ahead.
I will say one thing, which is the beauty of this. When you find the body sensation, it feels almost like more, you don't have to share anything. It's more like you're reporting something. And the capacity to sort of be mindful and to bear witness, it's still going to be you're sharing a feeling, but there's a way that you sort of like have a perspective, like you're looking at the lens as opposed to you have to like talk about it directly. So it
Yeah.
still gives you the same benefit, but there's something about it that if, and everybody can find body sensations. I have met one person who can, as long as you know one thing. If you say to somebody, what are you feeling? They are literally going to answer your question. They can't comment. So if they say, I'm not feeling anything, they think that that means that there's no sensation. But there is a sensation called I'm not feeling anything. And if you ask them where in their body they're feeling I'm not feeling anything, I haven't had one person yet who couldn't say, actually, I never thought about that, but I think it's in my head. And then I can muscle test and say, yeah, it's in your head. So bring your attention to the sensation we're going to call not feeling anything in head and let it share its story.
I love
And
that. I love that because it's just so true because a lot of people, they think they're either numbed out or whatever. But I love this one when it's always very telling to me when you talk to people, well, how are you feeling? And they say, I think I feel. I said, there's no I think I feel. It's like you could tell that they're very, very much in their head and they're intellectualizing their feelings, which is not even having an experience, basically.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I like you, I mean, you had said maybe you'll do something, but really what I say to my clients is the real client is the body sensation.
Yeah.
You got yourself here, you paid the money, but they're the one who's here. And so the second you drop in there, if you then said, most of the time, I think I'm feeling, it's really a 2-year-old you who said, I can't feel it, so I'm now having to dissociate. So really now they're telling that person's story as opposed to telling a story at age 52 where they are sort of like moving away from a feeling, because now they're telling exactly what happened. And I could say, yes, that's right. You think you're feeling, and then they'll say, yeah, I had to think I was feeling because it was so painful that I had to numb myself out and go into my head. They'll actually say stuff like that.
Yeah,
because
I
the
believe it.
2-year-old can speak.
Yeah, I believe that. And it's just another thing for young parents to realize too, is like their children are sponges and they're energetic beings. We're all energetic beings. I know that once we are conceived, the sperm and the egg, we become an energetic being. So we're housed in the hotel mom for 9 months and we're taking all that stuff in energetically. And, it's interesting because I believe as time goes on, more and more this is going to come to the forefront and realizing how instrumental it is in molding and shaping um, our youngsters.
So true.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'd say is reciprocal, even though there's different degrees of energy. It's like, I think the mother in that situation certainly molds the child, like, the earth. But the child also molds the mother, I think, too. It's like the moon has a gravitational pull, and sometimes those children that are still in the womb, they have an enormous impact in the other direction, too. But having said that, most people don't realize there's any impact at all, except, we now know if you're smoking, well, we can prove it, say something biological, but we don't think energetically. Of course, if we're sending love, it makes a difference. And if we're sending fear, it makes a difference. And as long as you don't judge yourself about it, maybe you could be with it so you wouldn't put it where you don't want it to go.
I love what you said about even the child giving energetic information to the mother, because you're absolutely right. It's reciprocal. It's, and I feel that youngsters are the most incredible teachers because they are so pure in their essence and they are so true to the higher aspect of who they are. They haven't been molded and tainted and molded into what society feels that they should be molded into. So I have a lot of respect for the energies of the whole dance that occurs. And I also feel too, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, I know that energy is going to be playing a huge part in the future as far as health and wellness. I don't even think we've begun to tap into how that's going to affect health and wellness in the future. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'd say two things. The first is, you brought up something that's really important, which is that if you live in a world that's sick, right, where there's patriarchy and objectification, that also clearly, as you say, you get enculturated into something. And to step outside of that, you really have to be able to feel all that in the body also, which isn't just, what happened between you and your brother, so to speak. So I really appreciated your comments. I think everything is energy. Everything. I mean, it's like, I think everything is flows of energy or relationships of energy or fields of energy. And if there's something that does something to that energy flow, center, or field, it will show up as some kind of symptom. It's just a question of when. And the symptom then becomes an opportunity to heal and grow, or to be miserable and not heal and grow, which I think is what free will is. Free will only for me is you choose to really go inside and say, what the heck is going on here? I have to discover it. Or do you choose to live a life where you're not, in a sense, trying to get to know, and you live out, the way you protect yourself and cope, or you live out the trauma, or you live out the something, but you don't step back and say, wait a second, maybe I could step back and look at what happened as opposed to automatically living it.
Yeah.
So,
Key
yeah,
point, it's about awareness versus being asleep.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Well, we're getting ready for our last break, Andy. And when we come back, I want you to share what your offerings are and how people could get in touch with you. So, right now, we're going to segue into our break. You're listening to the Dr. Dolores Show. I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And we're on the Inspired Choices Network. And today we're talking to Dr. Andrew Hahn, who is a psychologist and is author of The 1 Hour Miracle. So, stay tuned.
Do you trust your instincts? Many of us don't. Yet this is the key to connecting to your innate healer within and your intuition. Tune in to the Dr. Dolores Show with nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer, Dr. Dolores Fazzino, to receive insights and tools to realign with your inner wisdom for lasting health and true wellness. Listen for the Dr. Dolores Show, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Ready to break free from complacency? Welcome to I'm Awake, Now What? Your monthly invitation to embrace conscious living. If you've been feeling lost or stagnant, this is your chance to awaken your purpose. Join our transformative conscious wake-up office hours every month for guidance and self-discovery. Experience the power of clarity and focus as you navigate towards holistic healing and empowerment. Don't just survive, thrive. Sign up now and unlock a wealth of benefits, including enhanced well-being, stress reduction, emotional healing, and connection. It's time to ignite the flames of purpose within and start your journey to a fulfilling life.
This is the Dr. Dolores Show with Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to Dolores at drdoloresfazzino.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Dr. Dolores Show on Inspired Choices Network, and I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer, your host. And today I've had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Andrew Hahn, who is the author of The 1 Hour Miracle. And we've been talking through our segments today about energy and about healing and about feeling as well, and the importance of experiencing all of that. So, Andy, tell me more about your programs and how people could kind of get in touch with you if they want to work with you or find out more.
I can happily do that. Our work is called Life-Centered Therapy. So our website is lifecenteredtherapy.com. It's got an ED, it's centered. Some people don't hear the centered part. And you've been gracious enough to keep mentioning the name of our book, which I'm biased. I think it's a wonderful book. And it was totally a labor of love with me and my co-author who runs the Institute with me. We train people how to do the work. So we have that kind of literal training. We give workshops in sort of a short version if you just want to be able to do it to yourself and, your family or something. We call those workshops guided self-healing. We also do workshops on something called the Enneagram. And the Enneagram is just a wonderful framework for understanding people from the inside out. So we have trainings in all those things. And, if you're a graduate student or someone who is trying to get their hours so they can be licensed, we have programs for graduate students that those programs are growing, and we train you how to do this. Or if you're, post-grad, but you haven't gotten your hours, we train you how to do it, and we actually will. A lot of those programs pay very poorly. I don't like the fact that we have power and slave labor. So we pay actually quite nicely, and then we train people so people can get to us. I mean, even if it's hard to get to me, we have a series of certified practitioners, and we have these graduate students, and we make our work available to everybody. And I have a podcast also called Fearless Living, and people can listen to the podcast and get a real sense of both of what we do. And I'll have you on my podcast, and we'll.
Oh, I love that. That would be delicious. Thank you so much, Andy. I appreciate that. So, I think we kind of gave a very good synopsis of what your work is about. And I just really love the fact that you're able to look at something that people would just say, oh, I'm going to take a pill, a procedure, or whatever, and ignore it, and really taking a deep dive into going deeper, into potentially healing that at a core issue. And I feel that that's where we're going in the future. And when more and more people are becoming more awake and aware, they're able to embrace that and create true health and lasting wellness. So as we kind of wrap things up here, what is one thing that you would like to share with the audience?
What I'd like to share is really be open to everything. I mean, the key is an open mind and an open heart. And if you have an open mind, all that means is it's sort of like you say, if I were an empty vessel and I just let life inform me, what comes to me if I just am in that kind of place? And an open heart just means no matter what is happening, we try to keep our heart soft. And, if you can be open-minded, open-hearted, and be engaged with someone, that's really what life is about for me. So all our work, is just to help people get to a place where they're free to live that and to live whatever life is in alignment with their soul. Because, on one level, each of us is everything. On another level, each of us is differentiated. We're kind of like cells. So on the surface, we each have our role to play. And underneath it, we have to know that who we are is everything, and everything is who we are. And if you can know that, you can never judge anybody because you're just judging yourself, but you still get to play your role that no one else could play. So it's really an extraordinary thing. So that's what I would leave.
Thank you so much for your words of wisdom. And I just invite the audience to go check out his information and check out his website, and definitely buy his book because I believe it's really a wonderful tool to have in your toolbox. And when you're able to look at a deeper level within yourself and just remember to be kind and have self-compassion for yourself and also compassion for others, that's an instrumental step to keeping your heart open. So thank you, everybody, for being part of our show today. And thank you, Andrew, for coming on. And, just remember, make every day count, be kind to yourself, and just be in the present moment, because many of us have a tendency to be all over the map. And it's really about coming within and just creating that relationship with ourselves. So next week on the Dr. Dolores Show, we're going to be talking about the humble heart. And this was kind of like a segue into like the self-compassion and the ability to be right here, right now, and present with yourself. So you've been listening to the Dr. Dolores Show. I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And just remember, you are worth it and you're loved. Take care for now.
Thank you. That was delicious.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Dolores Show. Dr. Dolores returns Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, remember to be kind to yourself and create your best life. You are worth it.